Good morning, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Welcome to the Filmmakers Life. This is an interview that we do every 2 weeks. My name is Joanne Butcher. I am a business coach for filmmakers. I work with filmmakers on the topic of raising money. That's my specialization. Is about money, but it's sort of, in more broadly, it's about money, career, sustainability, and ultimately it's about getting your films made. So that's what I'm very interested in seeing. So today I am very excited to introduce you to Kopal Goyal in India. And Kopal, when I tell you how excited I am, I'm serious about it. Emily knows. So Emily Smart Anderson, who's the filmmaker liaison for Filmmaker Success, she is now managing the whole of the Filmmaker's Life. So for the last 3 months, every 2 weeks when it came up to the interview, I said, Emily, is it Kopal this week? And she would say, no, Joanne, Kopal's not coming yet, And then 2 weeks would go by and I'd say, is it Kopal yet? And she'd say, no, Joanne, Kopal's coming in August. And I would say, is it Kopal yet? And it's been like that the whole time. So I just wanted to tell you, I am super excited to finally meet you.
Yeah, well, glad. Yeah, I'm also excited to finally meet you. Yeah.
Yeah, and so there are many, many, many reasons why I was so excited, and we'll get to those. We'll get to those reasons. But the first question that I always like to ask filmmakers is to go way back to the beginning and tell me when you first knew that you were a filmmaker.
Okay, so I did not know until I joined rock climbing, actually. After getting into this sport, as I was seeing that there are people who are very exciting, and the sport itself is quite exciting. I mean, there is this fear all the time: what will happen, what will not happen. People are taking risk in their lives to perform that sport. And in India, because this sport was not established at the time when I joined, so all the people, they were quite talented, but they were all on a struggling phase. So I thought that I have basic knowledge of how to, handle camera, and maybe I can edit, because during my college days I used to edit people's documentaries. Yes, I gathered its strength and made me realize that, okay, I can do it. I can bring this story out and let people know that even people in India, they practice rock climbing. They practice other extreme sports as well. So yeah, that was the time when I actually realized that I should be a storyteller.
That is very, 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 very interesting. So years ago, I was on a plane. I can't remember where I was coming from, but anyway, I was on a plane and we were landing in Fort Lauderdale in Florida. And I sat next to this Scottish guy, and he told me he was a National Geographic photographer. And that, just exactly like you, he started out as a surfer. And now he specialized in surf photography for National Geographic. And so we're on the plane, we're like, chat, and he started showing me photographs. And I'm like, wow. Then he started showing me photographs of Mount Everest. And I'm like, wow. And this was the moment that really got me. And this is something to do with you. He was showing me photographs of Mount Everest. And then he said, well, I was standing over here, and then I took the shot like this. And all of a sudden, I had this realization. It sounds really stupid. Like, how could anybody be this stupid? But I suddenly had the realization that he was on the mountain. And then I realized I had him go back and show me all the surf photography again to realize he was in the water. And so do you see what I'm saying? It's like a conceptual thing, you know.
Right.
See beautiful photographs of beautiful mountains or whatever all the time. I suddenly realized where he was, you know, when he was capturing those moments of those surfers and some kind of, you know, thing, he was in the water with them. And that blew my mind. And so when I realized that you were making documentaries about rock climbing and, you know, extreme sports and so on, I'm like, but wait, how is this possible? So it's interesting that you started out as a rock climber and said, oh my gosh, these stories need to be told.
Right.
And you said that, you know, the sport wasn't well known in India. I'm not sure how well known it is in America, even though people, you know, it's a big thing here, but how well known is it anywhere in the world? How
This sport is in Olympics now. It's been in Olympics since 2022, since the COVID time, but because of that delay, competition happened another year. And first Olympic happened, and now second is going to come.
I see. Oh, that's
and yes, and this sport is quite popular in Western countries. I mean, even if you, I've seen, even if you talk about Asia and southern part and western part of it, there are so many good athletes. I mean, people are growing and growing, and they are just going beyond their limits. So it's quite a popular sport now.
Yes, and I have to say, yesterday I had a meeting at 8:30 in the morning with somebody in England, and I was late because I watched the landing of the Indian moon. I'm not sure what they're calling it, a shuttle.
Chandrayaan.
Yes. Moon, and I was crying, and I got onto my meeting. I was like, I'm so sorry I'm late, but I just watched the Indian moon landing.
Right.
And he didn't know anything about it. And before I happened to catch it yesterday, I didn't know anything about it. And so I feel as though watching your work and watching the landing yesterday, I feel a little disappointed in myself because I feel as though I was ignorant about certain things. This is why I was so excited to meet you, Kopal, but I felt as though, well, I didn't know India was in the space race. I think I vaguely knew, you know, but I find, especially living in America, you know, we get very, 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 very siloed. It was much more multicultural in England, I find, but I feel as though in England, maybe people, but my English colleague didn't know about it. So I was just super excited to find out that there's women in India engaging in extreme sports. I was like, oh, what a concept, you know? So as I said, I'm a little disappointed in myself that I didn't know about it, but it's very exciting to me. So what is it like to be a woman in extreme sports in India? What are the highs? What are the lows? What are the pros? What are the cons?
You know, when I made my first short film, which is Project Wild Woman, and it was well received by global film festivals, and made it to some famous film festivals as well. And as people watched that film, I received messages from across globe, like UK. Most of the letters were from UK. There were some from other parts of India. There were some from Germany, things like that. And I was quite shocked to hear what they had to say, because before that I was like, okay, this is not just India. Before that, I used to think like, okay, this is just India problem, cultural problem. There are biases. There is this gender issue. There is this cultural issue where women don't feel strong enough to go out and perform such kind of sports and take risk openly. And even if they take, they are termed as manly or boy, woman. But after reading those letters, I realized that, okay, this is not just here, but it's everywhere. There was this lady who was in her 50s, and she wrote that now she is at the stage where she wants to pursue the love for sports. because before that, her father was not supportive to her, and that is why she had to wait this much of her life. She had to spend that much of her life to get the right time and practice that sport. And there
Mm.
was this one lady from UK who said that she practiced rock climbing, but because you have to do other exercises, which of course alter your body figure and things like other things. She was having issues with her boyfriends because for him, she was not being feminine now. She was not being feminine in that beauty figure anymore. She
Wow.
is being masculine and uh, other things. And that made me realize that, okay, I think this is a cultural stigma and it's not just limited to any specific land or country, but it is in the air. It is in the air until and unless there will be people who will think like there is difference between men and women, this problem will exist. And the day when they stop thinking about that, that problem will diminish.
And can you tell us a little bit, Kopal, about that first film? What was it called? What was some of the, you said it was in some famous festivals. Tell us a little bit about that. What was it about?
Yes. Yeah, so that film was inspired by my own life because when I actually started practicing rock climbing, I was not really being supported by my family members, my parents especially. And my father
May
was,
I say, may I say, I can understand why.
it's good. It's
I'm going
good.
to go rock
Yeah.
climbing. You're going to do what?
Yes. And how are you going to make your living? You should be, because before that, I was in a job, 9 to 5 job, and I was earning some basic amounts. And for them, it was like, now you're going to even lose that basic earnings because this sport will not give you any money because there is no success story or there is no professional opportunity in this sport. Like if people will ask me, how will I tell them that my daughter practices rock climbing? And for them, even when I was teaching people yoga classes just to earn money, make my living, so that I can practice, I can pursue my passion for rock climbing. That was also a bit of a stranger concept for them, especially my father. Yeah. So that film was
What did you say you were
what?
teaching? What did you say you were teaching?
I was teaching yoga to
Yoga.
make my livelihood.
Okay.
Yeah. So that I can pursue my passion alongside.
Yes.
Yes. Project Wild Woman is about 14 wonderful women across India who practices rock climbing. And through that film, I just wanted to bring the reality of and the human side of women practicing rock climbing and not um, thinking about societal norms which have been set for specifically one gender. So yeah, that film went into Banff, which is so Banff happens in Canada every year, and this is one of the very big festival for extreme outdoor sports films, outdoor sport film documentaries.
What is the name of the festival?
Banff,
Banff.
BANFM, Banff. Yeah,
So
and
that's amazing. That's amazing. So you got into Banff
yeah,
with your first film.
yes, yes,
Amazing.
and yeah, and it made it to Sheffield Adventure Film Festival also, Women Adventure Uncover Women Film Festival also, where London Mountain Film Festival, where it won People's Choice Award
So
and New
let me just,
Talent Award in some
let me,
festivals. Yeah.
sorry to interrupt. Let me go back to Banff. So one of my clients from years ago was also part of this world that you're talking about. I think of it as the extreme sports world, the outdoor world, and the adventure world, the adventure world. So were you able to go to Banff for that?
No, no, I wasn't able to go to, but because my film made it to, and of course, that time was uh, uh, I had no money to go there because they invite only. I don't know whom they invite. Some film
Right.
festivals also invite participants, but I'm not sure who they invite and how they do it. So
And you're using invite in the sense that some film festivals, when you get into
yes,
a festival, they pay for your travel and for your accommodation. I believe
yes,
Sundance still does. I guess I have to ask this filmmaker I just met in the Democratic Republic of Congo. He just had a short film in Sundance this year, so I have to ask him, because the majority of film festivals don't do that, especially not for short filmmakers. But just by having your film in there, can you tell us a little bit about Banff and what kind of films? Because it's not all rock climbing, right? So
yes, it's not all.
what's the
They
focus?
support environmental films. They support extreme and outdoor sports film. They support also they also have competition for books about economical which actually talks about climate change and environment issues. They have a lot of categories actually, but it's all related to mostly outdoors.
Mostly outdoors, right? So what I learned from my client was that there's this whole outdoor world, right? There's this whole
Yes,
world. International, it's interested in the environment, as you said, it's interested
yes,
in extreme sports, extreme outdoor experiences,
yes, yes.
adventure. Now, I think there's a lot of interest in people of color in the outdoors.
Yes, they are promoting this a lot.
Yes, and women in the outdoors, and now mental health in the outdoors. Because of course,
Hmm.
I mean, there's instant healing in the outdoors, I think. But
Yeah, I mean, most of the films are about being mentally recover, like how people find themselves mentally and physically challenged, and how they uncover themselves in the outdoors.
yes, and so you also just mentioned my favorite topic, money. So and you said, well, I didn't have enough money to go to Banff. And you already told us you quit your job, even though your parents said, don't do that. You were teaching.
Yes.
How did you find the money to make your film?
So yeah, I did run some campaigns
Great.
to have public so that people can donate, and with that help I can make the film. And I also tried to find some sponsors, and I found one good one, but at the second part of the film, when half of the films was shot, then for the second half of the film I got this sponsor. And there were other sponsors also who actually helped me in little ways, like contributing gears, uh, giving health uh, some health snacks, or whenever, like when I'm in outdoors, I was able to have them with me, some with clothes, very basic clothes. But yes, nothing can compare the need of money. Nothing can actually, fulfill the need for money.
So
So yes,
Kopal, the sponsor, I think you might be the first filmmaker I've interviewed, and I've been doing this for a long time. You might be the first filmmaker who has said, I got a sponsor, especially on your
okay.
first film. Can you tell us a little bit about that sponsor? We can
Uh,
them.
yes, so he had a travel company, and had he was looking that industry from the different perspective, and he saw that similarity through in me and my ideas. When I went to him and I presented the concept of the film, he was like, okay, I'll give you just tell me how, and how much do you need and things like that. But there is this very interesting story when I was actually starting to work on this story, and finding people to collaborate so that I can, because I wasn't able to, I had no bank balance at that time, and because I had to travel all across India to different states, and all these sports are quite expensive. So I was asking people, in a way, like if they can help me with train tickets or flight tickets, if they can help me with accommodation or food expenses in parts and bits and pieces. And people actually laughed at my entire idea, and they said, "Do you think that you will find these women? And even if you find these women, how will do you think that in one single film you will be able to feature these many women? And what will their story? How will work with so many characters? That film is not, you are not actually on the ground. You are just flying in your own ideas, with your own dream, within your own dreams." And I was like, okay, I didn't say much to them, but I was like, okay, in my mind, even if you don't believe, I believe in my idea, and I'll see what I can do.
Wow. How do you think, Kopal, that you had the mental fortitude, the strength to have all those people say to you, basically, you're crazy? How did you
Yes, in
have,
short.
what is it about you that had you be strong enough to tell people, listen to people say you're crazy and keep going? What is it about you that had you be able to withstand that kind of negativity?
Uh, I belong from a very small village. My parents live in a very small village. There is no education, there is no infrastructure and other facilities. And I had to leave early for my education so that I can have some decent education. But I was always homebound internally, but I had to live outside of my home just for the sake of having some nice education for myself. So when I was in this situation, felt all stuck, and I was also not healthy for so many months, just because of so many things going around in that time. And I was not doing mentally and physically well, but I never stopped practicing rock climbing. And I think that became my strength. And some days I realized that, okay, I haven't sacrificed so many things, my living with my family, living, especially my mother, sharing that space and everything, just to give up on my dreams. And I think that was the key moment where I asked myself that, okay, no matter what, even if I have to fight with all the people in my life, even if I separate myself, even if I have to separate myself and I have to live alone, live my family, I won't stop pursuing my passion.
That is so fantastic. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say it quite like that. About if I had to leave my family to follow my dreams, then I'm not going to stop because of what you said, And I had a very similar thing that I would say to myself, which is, I'd run into some negative person or something or other, and I would say, I don't live 8,000 miles away from home. Well, I'm back on the East Coast now, so 5,000 miles away from home, just so that I can, in my situation, I left a very abusive home. And I was like, well, if I manage to leave abuse back 5,000 miles away, I'm not going to put up with any abuse here. That was how I was saying. I'm not gonna spend time with a bully, after I've left, and moved 5,000 miles away from home so I could leave the bully behind. So yeah, I very much.
This never stops. People never stops bullying you. I mean, even if today when I have made a few films, I have gained some confidence overall in my knowledge, in myself and everything. There are so many people around me who always, who always seek a chance to, pursue me in a way like, okay, you are still crazy. You don't have knowledge. You are just, showing off around and you are nothing in front of me, basically. I am more eligible than you. And all of those are men, basically. This is sad, but most of them are men. And there is this experience which I have faced, and I say that it's not, I mean, there is this very false narration that women help women, but I have seen so many women around me also who demotivates you. When you do something different, they will demotivate you, definitely.
Yes, well, I think that there's something about the people like you, people like me, who say, I'm going to forge my own path. I'm going my own way. It's really not the way everybody else goes, but I'm going to go this way. And it really is a challenge to people. They get very triggered by that.
Right.
And it's exactly the fact that you're going your own way that triggers them to say, don't go your own way. It's like,
right.
And then when you found this sponsor, the travel company sponsor, that must have been very gratifying to find somebody who not only was willing to support you, but really shared some vision with you as well.
Yes, it was a great support. I mean, otherwise I was in a situation like, okay, the second half of the film won't be made, and I was left with a half film, and what will I do? I don't know, like, because all my campaign money went in the first phase of shooting, and most of them went into buying tickets, because I was very thankful that all these women helped me with the stay, because wherever I was going, I stayed with them in their house. So the big amount of expenses were saved.
Yes.
Which is travel, local travel, accommodation, stay, hotels, and food.
Yes, that's great. And I guess they invited you to come to their home because you were a rock climber and a filmmaker. But
yes, and in a way, like, I asked for this help openly. That, see, I'm an independent filmmaker, and this is my passion project. It's not a commercial project, and there is no such. I just want to bring this story. I mean, I think they somewhere saw the passion inside me, that why bringing this story was important, and I think that was important for them also, because before my film in India, women were not known in extreme sports.
right.
So that film paved a path.
Yes.
And made an identity, helped them making an identity.
That is fantastic. So one of the things I wanted to ask you about was, as I said, I learned this through one of my clients. So when you're in that world, extreme sports, outdoors, adventure, environment, filmmaking, it's like a particular niche, right? It's a very, so over the years, you have also now been able to earn money in that niche. And so when was the first time you had that experience? When did you even see that was a possibility?
Through films only. So after making this film, because people started getting to know me also. So one adventure filmmaker, he invited me to work on his project. And that was a big project. He was working on that film for the last 3 years, and he wanted me to join that project as a director and as an editor, and
Was that
as in so
also,
many.
was that also
What?
an outdoor film?
Yes, that is also an outdoor film. And after that film, we did a lot of experiments. Like, so that film was licensed by a broadcast media channel. And we also did some screenings, local screenings, where so many people actually bought the ticket, which was a way to, how we as a filmmaker, we as an independent filmmaker make money.
Yes.
And we also sold online. We also sold the film online. So there, like, all these things were done, and that actually made me realize that, okay, this is one of the way where people like me can make the money.
What was that film called?
It was Kokankada.
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 Yes.
What was that about?
That film was about two friends with a dream to climb big wall in Maharashtra, because that Kokankada is a very big wall in Maharashtra, and because the Maharashtra terrain is quite difficult to climb. There is no water, harsh weather, and climate change, and all these wildlife problems. Also, rock keeps falling. So I mean, no other Indian has climbed that specific route in a very short time. There is one group who climbed that route in 90s, and those people are not fully known to people, to masses. So these people had a dream to climb that mountain. And this film is all about friendship, climbing together. But because of the climbing, their friendship also broke.
Oh,
So everything is just in this film.
wow.
This film is a journey of their friendship and climbing.
Yes, yes. So you started to see ways that you could make money as a filmmaker, which
Yes.
because I noticed for your you said about your first film, oh, it's a passion project. And I think
Yes.
a lot of filmmakers use that term and what they actually mean, because I feel as though as a business coach, I'm always translating for filmmakers. And I think what they mean by a passion project is I'm going to spend all my own money and I'm not going to make any money. I think that's what they mean, you know?
Yes, yeah. I mean, yeah, that is called passion project. But I was lucky to, I had not enough money to make the film. So I decided, I mean, with friends' help also, because I was connecting with a lot of people, and I was sharing them that, see, I don't have money and I want to make this. And they were giving me ideas that, okay, Kopal, you can do this, maybe you can do that. So one of such friend, she gave me this idea that, why don't you have public, why don't you collect funds from public? You just create a link. She just described me all the things, because I was very new to all these ideas, and she helped me understanding the pattern. And yes, I did that. So most of the donations were made by my family members, my brother, my brother's brother, cousin brother, and some donations were made by people who with whom I climbed. So that's how, not much money was collected, but whatever money was collected, that was enough to book my tickets first, because that was a priority. And
Yeah,
yeah, for
I
the second
love,
happened.
we call it crowdfunding, that's the term.
Yes,
And I love crowdfunding for my clients because I think it's a great way to learn to speak about, myself as a filmmaker, about my work as a filmmaker, about what I'm doing as a filmmaker. And you have to talk about it over and over and over and over again. So it's a very good training.
right.
Also, the money is a great way to get the ball rolling and to get things going. And without any money, it's very hard to get things going.
Right. Crowdfunding is a great source, actually.
Yeah, it's fantastic. What was the first time that you actually did a job that was a commercial job in this, in your filmmaking?
Uh, so after making a few films, because people started getting to know me through film festivals, so I got some projects through people who watched me on screen during film festivals, and yeah, made some collaborations. There were some agencies based out of USA. So of course that was with outdoor concept, but they hired me for that commercial project. And later on, of course, I did a few projects in Nepal, but all through my films and people who watched that film and people who liked that film, they decided to collaborate, and of course that those collaborations were good.
Yes, the one that I saw that was Polar Tech, I think.
Yes,
Polar
yes.
company,
It
right?
was Colors campaign.
Yes,
They collaborated with 10 filmmakers across the globe, and they hired me from India. So
that was beautiful. And you know, the thing is about this, when I always talk about to filmmakers about the niche, because before the internet, this whole concept of the niche really didn't exist. But now, so now it's like I met you. Anytime anybody ever mentions to me, well, I want to make a film in India, I want to do something about women, I want to do something about sports, I know who to call, right?
of course,
Right, because you have this
yeah,
such a clear specialization, and I
right,
just can't imagine talking to anybody else, you know what I mean? So
right,
I think that's really important. And so, you know, so what I'm asking about really is how a filmmaker moves forward with what I don't like the term passion project, because as I said, it sounds to me as if people
mm-hmm.
are not doing it.
Understood.
But you know, to take that passion that actually took you to say, well, I'm a rock climber, okay, I'm going to be a storyteller, and start that process. But then that process leads you to having an expertise that is very valuable to people, very
Right,
valuable. You know, and a lot of times filmmakers, I think, are not giving themselves enough credit for how valuable their skills are. You know, I think often, you know, when we have a talent, I learned this years ago about myself. When I first started studying film, everybody in my class asked me to shoot their film for them. So I was the DP on all these student films that we were making. And it took me a long time to realize, oh, I had some kind of talent, I had some kind of eye that not everybody else had. But when you have an innate talent, you don't realize that it's special. You just think everybody has that talent.
true, true. True. I was also not like that. Always, it took me time to appreciate my talent, appreciate myself. I was also not able to receive good feedbacks from people. Whenever people used to, tell me that, oh, okay, Kopal, you're so inspiring. You are doing really great. You do such a great job, or you are such a good rock climber, or you make good films. I was not able to receive the appreciation.
Ah.
You know
What
what
did
I'm
you
trying to
do in your
say?
head? What did you do in your head when?
Yes, in my head, because that was not enough. That was not enough. And I thought the same, that, okay, how different this is. Everybody is doing this. I'm not so unique. But with time, I realized that, okay, it's not just everybody, but it's me. And if I will not appreciate myself, then people won't appreciate my work. So it's really important to start with you, within you.
So true.
And yeah, there were people all around me who were always demotivating me, and I did not know how to answer to them, right? And I used to feel bad, I used to cry, and but now I'm like, okay, I know how to answer to that person also, in a very nice, with very nice gesture, and I know who I am as well.
That's fantastic. So when you made Kokankada, was that
Yes, right.
when you were just describing that rock and that wall, and was that the same one that you made the film The Rakchan Affair about?
No,
Oh, it was
two
completely.
different films. The one was Project Wild Woman,
It
and
was
the
at
other
the
one
same wall.
Kokankada.
Was it the same mountain?
No, very different mountain. So, Project Wild Woman, it's about 14 women and 10 different extreme sports. It's not just about rock climbing, but I did cover surfing, I did cover ice climbing, skateboarding, longboarding, all the outdoor and alternative sports in India. And the other one was all about rock climbing,
Yes, yes, yes,
big
yes.
wall mountain climbing.
So what are you working on today, Kopal?
Yes, I'm excited to tell you about that. So, in 3 years, because this is a long term goal and this like quite a heavy project, there is this mountain in the Himalayas, which is known as Meru. And there is only one team. If you know, so there are three people in the world who have climbed that mountain in 2000 something. If you know the name of if you know Jimmy Chin, have you heard of his name, Jimmy Chin? And they recently won an Oscar for an outdoor film called Free Solo.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. I know the film. I don't
Yes.
remember his name. Yeah.
So he was one of the person who climbed that mountain in 2000ish. I don't remember the exact year. I just forgot. But we are planning to climb that big wall,
Right.
and we have already started our training for that, all the plannings, working on the plannings and like that. So in 2015 our goal is to climb that mountain
Well, Kopal,
and make a film, of course.
there's something I just don't understand here. So in the film that you sent me, the Rakcham Affair, all of those people climbing are men. You are also climbing. You are also
Yes.
carrying a camera. I don't understand it. I can't wrap my brain around how you're doing it.
Okay, so there's some behind the scenes available on YouTube. Some from like Jimmy Chin itself and Ren and Arjun. They are very good. I mean, they are legends. They are filmmakers. They are rock climbers. They are
About them.
adventurous.
I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about you.
Yes, I do the same way. And that's the best part, that you don't just climb, but you do multitask at time. And that is something which I crave for. I never feel satisfied doing just one thing. I feel like I am very good at in multitasking. And that's what makes me feel alive.
Wow, that is just fantastic. I
Yes.
identify with you. You know,
Yes.
one of my clients years ago, he said to me, Joanne, how do you remember everything about my film? And I said, I don't know why, but any film, I always remember it. And he said, but how do you do that with all your clients? How do you remember all the films? I said, I don't know, but that's what I like the most. I like, all the working on all these films, all these different things. And I think it's what you were just saying, there's something about the satisfaction of using every part of your being. And with the rock climbing, I mean, obviously I sit in a chair when I'm working with my clients, but there's also that physical every physical part of you is being stretched to the max, right? But also
Right.
your brain, your thinking, your creativity, all at the same time.
Right, right. But let me tell you an interesting thing, that surviving as a documentary filmmaker, keep that aside that I do adventure filmmaking and I go to extremes, terrain and blah, blah, blah. But documentary filmmaking itself is at a struggling phase in India. I mean, the industry is growing, of course, because there are films who are making to Sundance, who are making to Oscars. Even this year, one Indian film, one Indian documentary won Oscars, The Elephant Whisperers. And there were two films in the same year who made it to Oscars. And this year also there are so many people who have received good grants like Chicken and Egg and Sundance and big grants. But yeah, because that this profession itself is quite struggling. I don't rely on making money through filmmaking. So there are alternative approaches which I take to make my livelihood. And I think that is a big support.
Yes, I
And
think
I really want to suggest people who want to make films, who, especially like when you have described how you take passion projects, uh, people, people invest their own money, whatever savings they have. So I think taking alternative approaches gives can actually help you to have some bank balance, because when you go out and shoot, so you can mentally be really free and not thinking about how will my monthly expenses be like for the next month, and
yes.
where will I get that from.
Yes, very, very, very important. And when you said earlier that when you had your first film in a festival and you realized, oh wait, it's not just India that where filmmaking is a struggle or documentary filmmaking is a struggle, it's everywhere. And so my work.
No, it's not same. I mean, in Western countries, this is quite a good industry. I mean, this is established industry. I mean, if you ask me, living in India, I think that uh, there is established market for documentary filmmakers in Europe, in America, but in India, you don't get funds easily. Even if you have a great idea, because of the political instability and other things which impacts getting getting you funds directly and indirectly, it is quite challenging. But it's not an issue for I think, because there are so many good and thought-provoking documentaries coming from Western worlds, which I think we won't, in living in India, we won't be able to ever make that, if we, especially I personally, because I have been developing two documentaries since the last 2 years, and it's quite challenging. I mean, people are not ready to even listen to my ideas and talk to me, because that is politically relating. That film talks
uh,
about political unstable situations in India,
yes,
and that's a struggle.
yes.
And
Well,
yeah.
what I was going to say is that my whole work, my whole life is dedicated to teaching filmmakers how to raise money. There is nothing easy about fundraising. It doesn't matter what the film is,
Right.
who the filmmaker is, and so, but my belief is that when a filmmaker is up-leveling their career, they also have to up-level their fundraising skills, because fundraising is always a challenge, and it always will be. There's I guess it happens for some filmmakers, but I personally don't believe there's ever going to be a point where filmmakers will not have to work hard at raising money.
Right. This is going to be the situation for another, I don't know how many years.
Yeah. I mean, even Christopher Nolan has to talk about money.
Yes. Everyone. Yeah, I've read, I've been reading so many articles about how to raise funds, how to, get yourself as sponsors, things like that. But yeah, of course, this is a very big challenge.
Yes, well, we have to talk. We have to talk. So I just want to make sure if anybody has a question, I always like for you to come on video. I don't like to try to follow in the chat. So if anybody, Sam, yay, thank you so much.
Kopal, I
So
hope
fun when people ask questions.
I hope I hope to see your movies one of these days. But my question, I have a couple of questions. Um, uh, does your government, does your country's government, uh, support filmmakers? Do they give money to filmmakers in India?
they have established an organization actually which helps you to get some funds, but there are so many gaps which needs to be filled, because when they release some information that is not known to population or people who are into the industry itself, and there is, I don't know, there is this hidden monopoly, I guess. How should I tell you that? When things come and when things go, we don't know. So of course there is some help, but that help is not accessible by the majority of the people.
What I would also add about that, which is a great question, Sam, is that America is now the only country in the world that does not provide any filmmaking funding from the government. But India was the second to last. So India only established some funding for its own filmmakers a very, very short while ago. Let's call it 5 years. I mean, with COVID, was it 5 years? Was it 8 years? I don't know. But anyway, it was a very recent thing. So India is very, very, very new in this world of fundraising. So there are other countries that have a much more established tradition. So certain countries, Canada, Mexico, Argentina, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, for example, is just moving really, really fast because certain countries, and in America, certain states, even certain cities have realized the benefit of investing in filmmaking. Right. And they are giving tax incentives, grants, this and that, this and that. And then there are other places, I was just talking about this the other day in my class, other places like where I'm living in Florida, where idiots are cutting out all of the funding and all of the tax incentives. But sensible people have realized, sensible countries, states, cities have realized that providing incentives to filmmakers is very smart business.
The reason why I asked this question is because, I mean, my country's government, I'm American, and I'm from Oakland, California, which actually, has quite a big independent film industry in the Bay Area, as much as New York does. So it's mostly the states that support the arts rather than the government, because I have my country has a government that does not give a hoot about the arts ever since ever since the Reagan era, which is really not good. And so the National Endowment for the Arts is in really deep trouble. So it's up to us struggling artists to, support ourselves in the arts, because we can't rely on our government.
But what I would say is that Oakland has some fantastic grants for artists, also for filmmakers, and California has some fantastic grants for filmmakers. So if you look at the city level in Oakland and at the state level in California, there is funding available. And I wouldn't worry about the fact that the American government isn't interested in supporting the arts, because other places are. Sorry, Kopal, what were you going to say? Kopal,
yes.
Go ahead.
Yes. So my answer to your question is there is not much support, and even if whatever small support they give you, that is not known and accessible by most of the people, even from the industry people. So it's equal to not providing or providing a little bit.
My second question, and thank you for your answer. My second question is, will you ever get to climb the mountains of Yosemite National Park?
I want to, but someday if I make it to that place, I will definitely would like to climb, because that is one such place in my list.
Great, because I mean, Yosemite is practically my favorite national park in all of my country.
Right.
Yeah. So.
And that place is quite a legend place in terms of, I mean, you can call it Makkah for rock climbers, because people from across the world and so many great climbs. That place has seen so many great climbs, so many hard climbs.
Amazing.
So
Here is a symbol that symbolizes you and me as artists.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sam.
You're welcome.
Thank you for your questions.
Thank
You're
you so
welcome.
much. Does anybody
Thank you,
else have a
Kopal.
question?
Thank you to Sam.
You're welcome.
Raise your digital hand or just come and wave your hand if you're so I have a question. It just popped into my head. In terms of your own rock climbing, are you in competitions? Do you do anything like that? Or is now your rock climbing and your filmmaking completely combined?
Yeah, so in terms of rock climbing and competitions, I have participated in few competitions, but now because I'm I've just shifted from another city to another city. I mean, it's not very recent, but here we don't have so much of opportunity in terms of rock climbing. We have just established an indoor gym, but yes, but now it's quite tough for me to balance between my filmmaking and rock climbing also. So whenever I get time, I am not focusing on the competition side of it, but I'm just focusing on keeping myself engaged in rock climbing, so that whatever goals I have, I can fulfill that. I can be strong with days in coming days. And yeah, and every time I look out for opportunity to have something nice to bring to the world, so that it's not just for the sake of filmmaking I'm making films, but I want to make an impact through my films. And that is always, I mean, to be honest, I want to bring some, put lights on some critical topics from Indian landscape.
Right.
And that is my goal for coming years. And I just want to see that where it goes, because it's like I'm close to some developments and something is not being right. And so, yeah, things have not been aligned, but I'm trying to do that.
Fantastic. B, hey, did you have a question?
I sure do. I want to first thank you both for this wonderful forum for filmmakers. And I resonate so deeply with Gopal, and I thank you for your work. I thank you for representing women filmmakers and women of color filmmakers, which I am. I'm working on my second documentary, and it is Black woman centered, and it addresses questions and issues that need to be addressed, especially at a time in our country where history is being so mangled. You mentioned Florida, that whole anti-woke thing. But my question, I'm going to get off my soapbox, is I hop on there so often. How successful was your online sales? And what was the best platform for that? And thank you both so much.
Great question. And how do we call you? Do we call you B or
Brenda Hayes.
Brenda. Okay,
Yeah.
Brenda. What is your documentary about that you're making right now?
The second documentary is Ain't I a Black Woman? Lumpkin's Liberation, Lumpkin's Legacy. The touchstone of the film is a woman, Mary Lumpkin, who was enslaved in Virginia. She self-liberated her children and herself. And she is a name that most people don't know. So my whole push is to say her name and the names of the Black women today who are self-liberating their communities through health, through activism, organizing, art, because the through line of slavery, that institution is no longer above ground, but there is a through line of racism in this country that still impacts many, many people. And I want to showcase the women, the Black women, who are combating that and being successful and letting their voices be heard.
Thank you, Brenda. And thank you for saying her name. Liberation Lumpkin, is it?
Her name is Mary Lumpkin.
Mary Lumpkin.
And you can check out my website at brendaahayes.com, brendaahayes.com. Once again, thank you.
Lovely. Kopal, so what do you have to suggest to Brenda about making some money on her movie?
Hey Brenda, thank you for your question, and congratulations to you for working on that powerful story. So my question to you, my answer to you will be, I made my own website, and created that whole system where people actually that entire event was quite successful, because even if when we released the trailer on YouTube for free, it received a large amount of views, which was 3 million views in just a few weeks. So we knew that people loved the trailer and they were eagerly waiting for the film. We just found a good occasion and released the film on our website through ticketing system, and before that we launched the film through physical screening. So many people came to physical screening, which was again a success. And this was all for the very first time. Before this, I never did this. That was just a trial to see how this, how this entire thing come out, and what success we get. And after that, people actually asked us that, where can I see this movie again? I want to show this movie to my friends or family, or I want to screen this at my home. And so that motivated us to create our own platform. But after a few days, that film was licensed by a broadcast channel, and but still we were broadcasting on our own channel as well. Until today, there are purchases. People are watching that film. The progress has been slowed down because, of course, this all works under hype. That you create a strategy and you use that entire strategy to make something successful, and that's how that
So
went.
you had the film on your own website, but then when you got the broadcaster, you still kept the rights to be able to sell it on your own.
Yes. We did not deal with exclusive license, but in exclusive license.
Right. Exactly. That was just something I really wanted Brenda to hear, because it's very, very important that you carve out the phrase we use in America, that you carve out the rights so that you can sell the film on your own, no matter what else is going on in terms of broadcast licenses or whatever licenses, but that you can always sell your own film. I have a client right now made a very, very successful documentary, and unfortunately he wasn't working with me at the time, and so he licensed it to a broadcaster, and now he cannot sell his own film. And he signed a 10-year contract with that company, who I would never allow any of my clients to work with. Right. And I should rephrase that, because I can suggest things to my clients, but they don't necessarily do. But usually this is a particular company that I'd be like, absolutely not. And then I would say to them, let's say one of my clients was determined they wanted to work with this company. I would say, okay, my recommendation would be, it says 10 years in their contract. My recommendation would be that you go to them and you renegotiate that so that you can get out of the deal in 24 months. And then my client would probably think that was a good idea. And then they would go to the company and the company would say, this is our contract, there is no changes. And my recommendation would be to never do business with a company that will not redline. Right? True. But this company, this is their standard operating procedure, 10-year contract, no changes. And now he's only in about year 3 or 4. But this is typical of the kind of deals that filmmakers make and don't
Yes,
really-
because people are not really aware of all the formalities, and like they're not really into it because they do it for the first time, and there are not so many people around them with such an experience who can suggest them, so they take just bad decisions. And we were just lucky enough because we were very clear in our mind from the very beginning that we are not letting ourselves exploit, even if we don't sell our film, even if we don't
Right.
make money, we will deal with very in a very comfortable manner, so that everything is just so understandable by us, what is going on, what should we if we should rethink on the terms and conditions they have been coming with. So we did some negotiations, and they were asking for the film for very less amount, and we were like, no, we can't do this, and because we knew the value of that film. And after this license, there was another famous media platform from India who licensed the film. So that's how we got the second license. We gained the second license. So yeah,
Excellent.
that
Well,
was great experience.
Kopal, I've been waiting a long time to meet you. So I'm thrilled to meet you, and we should definitely talk about raising money. And yeah, my entire purpose in life is to help filmmakers be better fundraisers. And thanks everybody else who came and listened in today. It's always a pleasure to have you. Thank you, Emily, for running the show. And we'll be back in a couple of weeks. And Kopal, what a pleasure to meet you. Oh, you know what?
Same.
Before we go, I just have to say one more thing. We met through Brown Girls Doc Mafia.
Okay, yeah.
And I forgot to
Yes.
mention that. Brown Girls Doc Mafia is a documentary organization for women of color, documentary filmmaker women of color. And it's just my favorite organization. Is
Yes, I've got few gigs through that group.
oh, really? That's fantastic. Yeah, because you can just go on there and say, hey, anybody in India?
Yes, even if I'm not talking about business, I can talk about just any help, getting any help, and they are there. I will find some people who might be interested in helping me. So some days I was looking for, okay, can someone help me to buy climbing shoes, because in India we don't get good climbing shoes, and there are people who are like, okay, just tell me, we will, things like that. So
Yeah, it's an extraordinarily supportive group. It's fantastic. So I just remember to say goodbye without giving props to Brown Girls.
Yeah, great talking to you. Great talking to you about funds, because this is such an important thing, and so many lives have been destroyed, I would say, demotivated, just because they are not able to get the right information about how to raise funds.
I actually met these three very young Indian women filmmakers. They had made their first documentary, and now I'm not going to remember the name of it, but a very, very, very important topic where women are being divorced by the use of one word. I can't remember now the whole story, but anyways.
Talak, I guess. Talak.
So they made a film about the concept of talak and how these women.
The law is getting changed in India, so that was a hot topic.
Yes. And so I met these three young women. They were in their early 20s, and we got on a Zoom, and they were literally ashen, their faces drawn, the fear. And basically the situation was that they had borrowed $60,000 US to make this feature film, which was very important.
Okay.
And now they couldn't move forward because they had no money, and they owed all this money, and they had no way to figure out how to make it back. And this is a place I find I meet a lot of filmmakers they've had the passion has driven them to get to that place, and then they're stuck, you know?
Yes, right, very true.
I was like, I can definitely help you. I can definitely help you raise money. We can do this. But they couldn't move forward in any way because they had absolutely no money. And they were absolutely terrified. Because like you said, you don't want to be on that mountain shooting that movie and not know how your rent is going to get paid next month, right? And it's a very, very, very common place that I see filmmakers get. And if they get into that place, they may never make another film again. So I don't want to end on a negative note, but this is why I'm here. This is why I'm here. This is why I talk to filmmakers, and thank you for sharing so honestly and generously. All right, we'll be in touch. Bye-bye.
Sure.
Thank you.
Joanne.
Thank you,
care.
Kopal.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you, guys.
You're
Bye-bye.
welcome.
Thank you for joining me. Bye.
You're welcome. And my email is on the chat, so if you want it,